Okay, folks, Friday evening. You know how people say TGIF? Well, it's TGIF now. Because now all the stuff that we don't like to do is done for the day. And we're going to try to do a little bit of a painting here. This is the third installment of doing the basing on these Hungarian Nights. And I wanted to see if I could get these knocked out tonight because honestly, I'm tired of looking at them. And I would like to move on to the next project here. But been real busy. Only been able to paint a couple times a week now. So anyhow, so this is where we left off. We have these two stands of Hungarian Nights. And last time what we did is we went ahead and put the, as I like to call the goop here, the basing material on the front of these two stands. We've already done the back. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to knock those two out. And first, we're using our triad of colors here. We're using the chocolate brown from Vallejo, the field drab for the mid shade, and then the, you can't tell what it says here right here, but this is Iraqi sand also from Vallejo. That's the first, second, and third colors. So we're going to start off with doing the chocolate brown. Now, let's, I literally, when I stop, I leave everything as it is, and it's kind of messy. So somebody mentioned to me one time, it's like, well, why do you start off picking up your table? I said, well, this is exactly how I left it last time. So if I don't finish the session picking things up, then we will be starting the session picking things up and getting it out of the way. So anyhow, hey, that's what the fast forward button's for, right? Okay, so brushes, brushes, brushes. Hey, I make the videos, you watch them, and all you got to do is be patient, and you get to watch them for free. So, okay. I think that should do it here. All right, let's get some of this brown on here. And oh, here's an example. This is some of the basing material that I used. This is this Liquitex resin sand. Okay, this is what I use for all my basing. And you can tell when it dries, it's elastic and it's semi-transparent. So, and I believe if I really poured a lot of water on it, this stuff would end up washing away. But we're not really interested in that right now. We just need to have a spot here where I can put some brown paint. I don't need to use the paint palette for this. I don't think it's going to dry fast enough. So let's get this where we can be kind of semi-centered on what we're going to be doing. I should do it. All right. And let's get some of this chocolate brown here on the deal here. All right, and as I mentioned in the video the other day, I've gotten in the habit of never having to wait for things to dry. And unfortunately, the only thing I do that I do have to wait on drying is after I paint this, because I'm using so much paint to get in here in the cracks and crevices that I'm going to have to wait for it to dry some. And, you know, because it's a dry brush type of method that I'm using afterwards, I can't just roll to the next color. But, you know, waiting for it to dry might be, 10 minutes or something. But usually that isn't an issue on anything else. So, okay. So let's see if we can get in here and get in between. Now we've already done half of the basing on here, so I'm probably going to have to go over some of these colors that I've already put down on the second half, but it's okay because I should be able to get in there and dry brush what I need to do. So, because I only did half of it. So when I applied this other one, wanted to make sure that the basing on both halves blended together, overlapped, I should say. So, a basing is actually one of those things that you think is really easy and wouldn't take long, but it can. You don't want to spend all this time painting figures and then rush the basing and then do a sloppy job with it. And you just wasted your time. So it's give it the respect it deserves. And I'm using this thinner brush than I normally would because I want to get close to these spots that are hard to reach normally. And let me make sure this is up and that's up and we're good. All right. All right. So, yeah, this was a long week. A very interesting long week. So, looking forward to the weekend. Especially a long week when I came back from vacation. So, because I was off for the 24th, the 25th, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, 1, 2, 3. What day was Monday? The 4th? I was off like 11 days. So, and unfortunately didn't get, that's not true. I painted on Sunday. So I did get some painting. I didn't get any painting on the other 10 days though. So, oh well, we'll get through these guys eventually. I know one thing that's not going to speed these things up is jumping around from project to project. So we got a couple other things that we want to do, but we're not going to do that until the Hungarians are complete because otherwise you have nothing to show for it. There's nothing worse than spend a whole year working on something and then not finish it and go on to something else. And that doesn't get completed either. So we want to complete things here because we want to have these guys on video. We got all kinds of people these guys need to beat up on, or hopefully, and not get beat up by. Should be able to do some painting tomorrow morning, but only for about an hour. We have the standard fare of back into the Saturdays of waking up early, but then taking the daughter to swim practice. So not until Sunday where we can get a good run on this. But I'm hoping that it won't be these guys. In other words, these two stands will be completely done tonight. Let's move this down. And yes, I'm having iced coffee, and so I have a chance of getting something done. Because otherwise, it wasn't going to happen. Been gray here all day long. It's one of those days where, as I like to say, it's the same time of day all day long. And it really gets to you in that you just feel tired. So it looks like 8 a.m. all day long. And actually, it was one of those days where it was colder in the morning. It was colder at the end of the day than it was when it woke up. So we've got a front coming through here. Welcome to cold weather. Gray days, not so much. There's a little spot here. And if there's something weird happens and I can't reach it, that's your perfect opportunity to put a little bit of grass or something like that. Put a plant in there where it can't be noticed. If you booger something up, that's a good place to fix that by doing that. think it's about as far as I can come from here. I'll have to reach that from the other side. Okay. Had a pretty good game video this week. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, shame on you. You guys, I gotta believe people check those videos out before the painting stuff. You know, there's probably for every person that watches one of these videos, there's probably 10 to 12 that watch the regular game one. So I mainly do these for keep myself on track. The fact that you guys might find some value in them, that's helpful. But I know the people are mostly into the war game stuff. But we had a visitor that came from Indiana. He was already in Florida, and he came and visited us. And he had the unusual distinction of never having played DBA, but yet he had a couple of armies already painted for it. So that was pretty cool. He found himself motivated to paint armies for a game he'd never played. And fortunately, he enjoyed it. Otherwise, that would have been a big bummer. Like, have a couple armies painted for a game you really dislike. So I think he had a good time, and we enjoyed having him. It's always nice to have new blood. And almost done with this. Just trying to get into the last few places. So I had a couple of interesting things happen. Well, I had several things interesting happen on vacation, but the one I was going to mention right now, I've mentioned this before that I used to play computer games a lot until my computer died. So I stopped playing computer games for about 8 years. And really kind of used the computer games as a motivation to get stuff painted. So, but anyhow, while I was on vacation, I was actually in a couple hotels. One of them had really good internet, so I took the opportunity to download a few games since there was a Steam sale going on until January the 1st. And it would take forever and a day to download here at home because, as I've mentioned to you before, my internet here at home is pathetic. It would not be correct saying it's bad, it's just pathetic. My phone signal at home is incredible, but just the quality of the of the internet download speeds, upload speeds here at home is just not conducive to doing anything really of that use. So I took the opportunity to download a couple of games since they were on sale anyways. And I actually had something happen to me that had never happened before, and that was I downloaded one game and then I played it for a little bit and then realized I did not like the play of it. So I got it. So I asked for a refund. I did that 3 times in a row. So I ended up trying 3 different games, which I guess, that kind of, I had been out of computer gaming for and long enough that the Steam really hadn't taken off like it has now. When I stopped buying computer games, there was still computer games you could get at stores, and since then it's basically all Steam, downloads and stuff. So there's no like demos and stuff to try games, which is kind of unfortunate. But I think that if you play it for a short amount of time, you can ask for a refund. And they gave me a refund all 3 times. I don't really feel bad about doing that because I played each for like I don't know, less than 10 minutes or so, 10 or 15 minutes. I'm like, this just isn't my thing. I'm just getting bored of the computer games more than I used to. You know, the end of it is you just don't have anything to show for it. It might take me forever to paint these armies, but once they're done, and you'll see them in videos and stuff like that. I'm playing a video game. I don't care how good it is. I'm going to get tired of it. So, yeah, tried all three of them and got my money back. Luckily, it didn't take all day to download each, but yeah, not really into it as much as I used to be. You know, you kind of see it all after a while. So, one thing that I'm not used to in computer games is my laptop, I guess, has a 4K screen, which I guess is, I don't know, it's got a hell of a resolution on it. And usually when I start the game, a new game up, the first thing I got to do is get the screen sized correctly, because almost always it has the default goes to the best graphics it can spit out, and I can't read the print. It's just too damn small. It's not that my vision's bad, but I just can't see it. So it takes several tries to get that right. And anyhow, that didn't used to happen. All my gaming recently, electronically, has been through the Xbox. So the nice thing about that is it's always sized how it can be, basically. You don't really have much of an option, but now you've got all these screens and it just has too much detail. So I tried three games. One of them was, I'll make sure nobody's got any questions first. We'll get into that before I go on my ramble. Not a wet palette fan. Not right now. I am a wet palette fan, just not using it right now. What, the one time you check in and I'm not using a wet palette? Not for this. Not for this. This is the only thing not using it for, and I won't be using it in dry brush. But yes, I use it extensively. But yeah, yeah, three games and none of them really. Okay, let's try that again. That was weird. But I've actually had that happen to me before. I was in the middle of a conversation, and the next thing you know, I'm no longer recording, and I'm not sure how that happened. But the last time it happened to me, I realized that, or the next to the last time that it happened to me, I realized that I needed to exit out and then I needed to come back in and then resume the stream. I'm not sure why that happened. Right now, I have a 5G signal and it's to the max. So I apologize for that. But anyhow, I'm back. Well, actually, never left. It's YouTube that left us. So let me go read some comments here. Yeah, you were wondering. Yeah, they are not good for dry brush. They're not. It's just to keep that paint alive. And I'm going to consume this paint faster than it's going to dry. So that's really not an issue. But anyhow, back on what I was saying, I had played Rome Total War a lot. Actually, just about the time I started getting into DBA is when I got into that. So kind of helped me with kind of put a foundation on like the interest in the period and stuff like that of ancient combat. And my computer died in 2012. Didn't get another one until earlier this year. And I picked up this Rome Total War 2 that had been out. So, and the games got so much more complicated. They got so much more complicated in as far as politics and who's marrying who, and not necessarily just all the economics, but you're like running all the factions and things like that, and things that the other games didn't have. But I guess I kind of lost interest in that as well. I got to the point where I didn't want to fight any of the battles personally, because all the battles in Rome Total War just turn into the same thing. Okay, you just make a strong line, hold everything together, and then envelop everybody from behind, and then and then crush them. That's how every battle is, and it just gets old. There's not anything like that. So I did play it quite a bit for the campaign, but I'd much rather be painting. I'd much rather be doing this. I'd much rather be doing this than the gaming. The gaming is cool because you get ideas for like maybe like paint schemes or something like that. But I can't. It's not the same. I'd rather do the. Anybody can play a computer game, and we've been working on our painting skills for a while. So this is where I need to be. So, and I don't know what. It doesn't matter what game you have. You're going to get tired of it. It's going to be more of the same thing. So. You thought it was my network that failed. Nope, Dirk, it was YouTube just didn't like it. They took away my bandwidth for talking about protesters or something. I don't know. I don't know. That's happened a couple times, but now I know how to deal with it. I just had to exit YouTube, and if I end, if the stream ends abruptly like that, just stay tuned. I will be back. I'm not going to be like, well, that's it. I'm going to sign off like that. We're not going to do a hard stop like that if we can avoid it. Unless I keeled over dead at that point. It just happened to be that's the case, but we're not going to like that. Australian Greg, just gone noon on Saturday here, working on Saloy and two fast longbowmen for my feudal English army. Yeah, I've got all those guys to do myself, but they're a little bit longer on the queue. I think I'm going to try to stick to the busy, boring thing that I've described in the past. And what I mean by that is, if you paint an army that's really busy, like I'd call this one a busy army, or you paint an army that's kind of boring, like my Irish, alternate them. And boring just from the standpoint that they're just kind of peasant looking and they don't have heraldry, or they don't have the bright colors. They're more boring. Now, to be honest with you, I'm actually really surprised how much fun it's been to paint these commoner, non-fancy looking folks. I thought I was going to dread it, but taking an army that is not colorful and trying to make them look interesting has been a really nice challenge, and I've actually enjoyed it a lot. So I think I'm going to stick to that. The next army that I do will probably be what I would call a boring army. So that means we will not be doing Italian cantata next, but it could be pre-feudal Scots. Pre-feudal Scots fall in that boring category. It doesn't mean they're boring to play. I mean, I love my Irish, but they're not colorful. They're not fancy dressers compared to something else. So it's probably what we're gonna do. The boring armies. I shouldn't call them boring. That's not what I'm trying to get at. But you guys would not the plainer looking armies paint a lot faster if you can stay on track. Well, they usually also have less equipment on them. I mean, these guys are just loaded down with all kinds of different stuff on there. I had some of the Irish, which basically were barefoot. They were wearing their little, their lena, little, almost like their night shirt type thing, and a javelin. That was it. You paint a couple of things, and the guy's done. You could really knock out an army really fast. So there's an advantage to doing that. So probably going to stick to that. That mixes it up some too. So. But it's going to be a while. I've got so much left to do on this army. That's ridiculous. After I'm done with these two stands, the deep nights. I still have to do a night commander. Two other nights that are not deep. Uh, Two war wagons. That in and of itself will take a while. And two units of bow. And then we can talk about doing something else. So it's still a ways away. It's going to be, this is a 2020, 2021 project. So I know one thing's for sure. These guys will be done by the next time we have a convention. That's not really going out on a limb. Hey, Todd, how are you there in the middle America? Smack dab in the middle of the US. That's what it is. It's not the middle of nowhere, it's the middle of everywhere. Although I'm not sure that St. Louis is really in the middle. Might actually be Kansas City. It's right in the middle, but somewhere in there. That's the middle of the continental United States. So I went on vacation to Tennessee. Just about the whole time was spent in Tennessee, Nashville and Chattanooga. The Noog, as I like to call it. Surprised nobody's come up with that other than me. Just seemed kind of obvious, a really long name. But anyhow, and it was really strange as soon as we got a little bit past Chattanooga, the time zone changed and we were in Central Time Zone. And we didn't move very far west, but yet the time changed an hour. So what happened is it was like dark like at 4:30 every day. And that was really kind of disappointing, because I don't know, I guess I'm affected by the sun a lot. Like you just think that it's like today. Today's been gray all day long, and I've been like I'm tired because it feels like it's been Groundhog Day of 8 a.m. all day long. So, oh, okay, here we go. What do we got here? Da-da-da-da-da-da. Midland. It's in Kansas. It's in Kansas, west of Kansas City. So Kansas is the middle of everywhere. Okay. Australian Greg says bought some Citadel contrast paints yesterday to try on the fast troops that I'm painting now. Two reds, two greens, and a blue. Oh, interesting. Smith County, Kansas. We almost went to Kansas this holiday season. Almost. We almost went to a place called, I don't know anything about it. So maybe if you do, you'll tell me that if we made the right choice or not. Called, I believe it's called Branson, just north of Arkansas. The wife's mother's boyfriend has timeshare things, and he had the ability to get one there. And I'm like, I really would like to do. We really haven't had a family trip, just the three of us, all year. So I really just want it to be the three of us. So we kind of just nixed doing that. But and I'm not really sure what kind of a place that is. I have a feeling that it might be a little Gatlinburgish, which means like a tourist trap, which probably means it was probably a good idea we didn't go because we went over in the Gatlinburg area last year and it was like a zoo. It was like Kissimmee, Florida. I didn't care for that too much. So I mean, I don't, I like commerce and I like civilization, but I don't like overly commercialized $2 towels and $4 t-shirt type places. You know, I'd like to go someplace or somewhere to eat that's not what do you call that damn place? Golden Corral back to back. So, You had a couple friends use contrast World War II troops to look nice. Then Southwest Missouri, south of Springfield. It's a beautiful down there, although there's some tourist traps. Okay, Greg. Yes, so it's like Kissimmee. Yeah, that's God. I hate it. The old part of Kissimmee where you got like the tourist traps and just the stuff that the locals are like, "What are you doing down there?" All a lot of those tourist places, the $2 towel places, are all run by Russians. They all okay. Well, they sound like they're Russian. They may not actually be Russian, but maybe it's a front for something else. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, that's not what I want. You've lived in Kissimmee. Oh boy, yeah. The white contrast paint works well over Corax white to give shading, then dry brush with white scar to pick up the highlights. I think I'm too far along to try that. There's and I've mentioned this before. There's people that I really admire the way they paint. I'd say they blow me away. They are really really good. I'm sure there's many of them, but a handful that I can think of who they are right off the bat. And I've seen them paint, and they don't paint any quicker than I do. So I think what's going to make me happy is not going to be used. That's it. Drink. Of course, it's iced coffee. But anyhow, what's going to make me happy is not going to is not the cutting corners isn't going to work for me. I think I said that right. Well, I know what I'm getting at, but it might work for other people. Um, but yeah, that was actually made me feel pretty good as I saw a couple of videos and one guy that I really admire a lot. I saw he's got some tutorials on how to do vehicles, and I haven't done vehicles in a long time. I'm a World War II gamer way back in the 20th century. That's all we used to do. And I've used an airbrush in the past, but I don't own one. And I'm not, I thought about getting one, but I don't think I'm going to. But they've got this thing called, is it called modulation? That's new to me because I haven't been in the painting vehicles in the last 20 years. Over 20 years painting vehicles. I haven't painted any. And since then, there's the modulation thing, which is kind of the shading before the shading, whatever. It's just so subtle in between that, So this guy that I really admire how he does his painting. He has these tutorials of how he does all the painting on his vehicles. And I've told him, I said, your vehicles are unrealistic. They look better than the real vehicle. You could park the real vehicle there and the miniature you just painted, and the miniature you just painted looks freaking fantastic, you know. But it's a 74 step process that he uses. So I get that. I mean, that was comforting because I feel like the way I paint takes too freaking long. And I just don't know how I'd be able to cut corners and get more produced. And then I realized that the only way for me to do that is just to paint more often, or what's really helped in 2020 is do videos like this because it keeps me on track, not like uh, looking at something on YouTube and then be like, oh, let me watch this guy's video, and then like, oh, squirrel, what about this other thing? Or you just get distracted, or you spend 30 minutes looking for the right video and then only 30 minutes painting, and I just go on here, do my thing, ramble, and fortunately, it looks like some of you guys find some value or entertainment in what I'm doing. But I'm really doing this for me to stay on track, because I'm like, I was scratching my head like I gotta get more stuff done. It's not so much that I need to speed up because I'm bored, because this is therapeutic for me, and because I really don't run into any issues I can't deal with painting here. I mean, yeah, issues come up, but there's nothing but like, just don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna leave this alone. But it takes a long time. So that's when I realized, if I just do these videos, I can stay on track, ramble for, I don't know, 30 minutes, an hour. I usually don't want to paint if it's only going to be 30 minutes. It's going to be at least an hour. Paint for about an hour or so. Or, like I did that one time, 9.5 hours, and get a lot of stuff done and feel good about it. It's just like working out, okay? I don't know if you guys enjoy working out. I don't. But anytime that I do, when I'm done, I'm like, man, I'm glad I did that. Same thing. When you're done painting, you're like, man, I wish I could be doing something else that's more entertaining. But when you're done doing this, you feel like you've really accomplished something. So there you go. There's the words of wisdom or words of stupidity for Friday. Hey, and it's TGIF now. Now it is TGIF. Not at the beginning of the day on Friday, whenever nobody wants to do any work and you still have the whole day to get through. Now it's TGIF when the work's over. I like to say TGIF was created by some poor bastard that worked 410s. He's got Friday off every week. That son of a bitch. Yeah, so it was comforting seeing people that I really admired that were taking just as long or longer to get things painted than I was. So, yeah, that whole modulation thing is just, that's insane. You know, you spray everything one color and then you do the modulation and then you're like, okay, cool. And then you do the pin shading and then you do the dry brushing over that. Then you do another pin shading, then a little bit of spray over that, then do all the dirt. I mean, it's like, it looks better than the real vehicle. It's really amazing. I like I like my miniatures and my vehicles to look a little, and I'm going to use this loosely, cartoonish. Now, no, like a comic book, but like a nice comic book. You know what I'm talking about. Not one of those crappy ones where they didn't have enough colors they're like watercolors and the colors transfer over the lines and stuff like that. I'm talking about one of those graphic novels, okay? A graphic novel. That's the look I like. I don't want my stuff to be uber realistic looking. They need to look like a playing piece for me to be happy with them. So that's the look that I'm going for. Anyhow, okay, let's see. Holy crap, man, I missed a lot of stuff here. By the way, enjoyed the Marion battle. So I struggled, Dirk, on that, on trying to find what it was called. And it basically only started off by this guy contacted me like 3 weeks ago and said, hey, I'm going to be in Florida around the holidays, and I'd like to come up and play with you guys. And I've never played before. And then the guy told me, oh, and I have two armies. I'm like, you've never played the game, but you built two armies? Well, good for you, man. That's better than I could do. I'm one of those guys that I've got to play the game and be sold on it being worth a damn before I commit my time to it. And then, the rest is history. Now I'm an addict. But waiting for these guys to dry a little bit. And we can go on to the next step, which is the middle shade here. But yeah, that's how it started. He's like, I'm going to be there for the holiday. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to be out of town. This is the first vacation I've taken all year. And I'll be back for the 4th. It's like, oh, I'll come up on the 4th. So he came up and he'd never played before. And he had the Marion army and the Germans. I figured, dude, just play the Marions. That's a good solid army, low pip that you can learn. And we'll teach you the ropes. And he had a great time. So, and we were pleased to have him. So, and you guys are traveling through Florida. Here's the caveat: you can't be assholes. Okay, if you're traveling through Florida and you're a happy guy, let me know. We'll set something up and teach you the ropes and you know make you famous, as I like to say. Nah, that's just fun. I think he had a good time. He's one of those guys. You meet somebody and it's like, it's a shame you can't play with us every week because you'd be a good fit. So Scott had a good time and we were happy to have him there. I just didn't know what the hell to call the thing. Scott comes by or something like that. So I'm like, yep, making my 20 minutes a day goal has been helping. Absolutely. Film each day either live or as a summary. Yep. A while back, I tried to determine what tabletop standard was, and it appears that everyone has their own definition. The important thing is that you're happy with it and you're encouraged every time you play, not discouraged. I see some people paint stuff on it. Luckily, I don't do Warhammer because the people that do stuff at 28 millimeter is just out of control. The kind of detail some of that stuff is. But I don't get discouraged. I'm like, okay, I realize it's a trick. I mean, now I realize it's a trick. And, it's, if that person can do it, you just kind of learn from each other. I mean, I've flat out taken things from other people, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you give them credit. You don't say, well, I came up with this all on my own, you know, I mean, everybody's got good ideas. So, you learn from each other. I guess it's the same thing with music. I am not musically inclined at all. I'm not too bad on air guitar, but that's about it. Of course, nobody's watching me, so I might be terrible. But some people are musically inclined, and I can't understand how we had this conversation while I was on vacation with this guy who's a musician. He was kind of on the side. He wasn't in a band or anything, but he played guitar, and it's like I can't fathom how you can go in and it's not so much get your left hand to do something at all because I'm extremely right hand dominant. But go in there and like play a note. Look, I'm so less of, I'm not, I know so little about music that I don't even know the right terms, but you go in and play a string with your dominant hand on the guitar, but you have to go in and not hit any of the other strings and hit that one and then get back out. I mean, it's a game of like musical blind operation. I don't know how people can do that. And then, the people that play that get it, just like I could probably pick, like I painted some things that was on a canvas. And yes, I was no freaking Picasso or Bob Ross or anything, but I kind of I've developed some skills just by doing this that I kind of have a clue. And it's kind of the same thing. People that play music can't figure out how people can draw or paint, and I can't figure out how people can play music. So I think you have to have some kind of built-in skills already and an interest to develop them and not get frustrated when you don't. Because like if I'm gonna do music, it'd be like, no, it's just this is just like forget it. I'm not starting that. So it's too late. I'm too old I'm too old to try to figure out who I am. This is who I am. We're gonna work on this stuff, but yeah, we're all programmed a little bit differently, and that's okay. You know, some people are really good at hitting a ball with a baseball bat, and they can't draw a smiley face. So you know, everybody's got a very specific set of skills that's going to be easier for them to work through. So you won't be seeing Shaq painting DBA armies. Uh, da-da-da-da-da-da. Florida is a long way from New Zealand. Yes, it is. We've been here all along. You guys just floated away. We're not even as close to the same. We're not even the same day most of the time. Wrong season. It's early summer for you guys. Wellington, heavy metal, capital of the world, 28 millimeter DBMM. Holy crap, that's a lot of figures. That's a lot of weight. So I'm actually more of a figure painter than I am a gamer. because the figures are important to me. I don't know how sold I'd be on the. Well, it's different now. I don't mind playing other people's armies because I have my own armies. But if it had snapped my figures and all my armies disappeared, I don't want to play a game with other people's figures. I want to paint my own. You know, so that's just always been the case for me. And I'm just not going to paint 28s. They just would take too long. It used to be, and I've mentioned this before, 15 years ago, 18 years ago, when I started doing ancients for the first time, I wouldn't want to do 28s. Well, first of all, nobody did 28s in this area. And I didn't want them. They just didn't have the figure variety. Well, now there's plenty of manufacturers that make 28s that I really like. But nobody here does that. I'm not going to start over with that. I'm just it just would take too long. I'm not gonna. I would be that guy that's gonna spend 12 hours on each figure. I just don't have it. I don't have the time to do that. So anyhow, this is what we're stuck with. But there are some 28s that I like. It's not a cost of the figures. Sure, the fact that they cost more doesn't help. I think that they take up more space is probably a bigger issue than cost. Not that I'm throwing money around, but I'm just saying that's not a huge consideration. How much do 28 millimeters figures cost each? Say $5. I'm probably rounding up a lot. Say they're $5 a piece. Well, if it takes me 12 hours to paint them, that's like, no, let's just make it easy because it's late in the day. I can't do math anymore, as you guys know, and that's like $2 an hour for the figure. That's that for something that'll always stay painted. So it's the cost is irrelevant. It's just a waste of money if you don't paint it. That's what the big waste is. You go and buy figures and you don't do anything with them. Well, that's a waste of money. So takes you about a year to do an army. Yeah, yeah, I believe it. I was getting armies done about two a year in this scale, but I'm super anal retentive and slow, and I got a little faster doing this consistently, where I probably could get three armies done a year, but now lately it's just been the opposite. Work's too busy. Some of you guys that are out of work or whatever, man, you get all the painting done you can while you can, because when work's busy, man, you want to just relax. And this is relaxing, but it's still doing work. So most of my free time that I have had in the hobby has been when the economy is kind of in the gutter, like 2009, that kind of stuff. So we'll see if that happens again. But I'd love to. Like I said, I didn't have a vacation in 2020 until the end of December. So, and I wouldn't sit at home and take vacation. That's just not gonna do that. In Wellington for the World Championships after experiencing the Christchurch earthquake. Played DBA. The World Championships are in New Zealand. That's like saying when you've got the Patriots or something like that wins here in the United States. They win the Super Bowl. They're the world champion. Well, yeah, nobody else is freaking playing that game. I mean, I could make up my own set. I could make up my own set of rules and play them here. Nobody else plays them, and I'm the world champion. Yeah, if I went to New Zealand, I don't think I'd be allowed to play DBA. That's just not really what I'm going over there for. So, although I don't think I'll be traveling overseas anytime soon with the current situation. So, and I mentioned this before. It doesn't really bother me that much because the fact that we can have this show and we can communicate with people all over the world is much better than, say, in the 80s when you couldn't have this interaction, but but you could travel more freely. I prefer what we have now. It's more useful. And hell, I'm playing every week, so I've got no gripes really with the playing situation here. It took me a long time to get a group here to get people rolling in it, not only doing playing frequently, but also playing have a group of guys that kind of have the same mentality of games. Because you guys have the game groups, and there's always one guy that's the asshole that kind of brings everybody down. I'm not sure we have that, and you know, um, every group's got it. If you think your group doesn't have it, it's probably you. The one guy that argues about the rules and stuff like that. I may be the asshole, but I'm not the rule arguing guy. I'm there to have a good time and crack jokes and get more motivated to get more painting done. The rules are just kind of I mean, I like to play by the rules, but I'm not a rules lawyer kind of guy. It's never been my thing. So, but I do want to play them fairly. But we're gonna get shit wrong, unfortunately. Okay, we need to use a smaller brush than this to get in there in between the stuff. But it took a long time. I mean, I was here, well, I've lived here most of my life, since 81. I started gaming about 86, and we had a gaming group that met every Saturday at the hobby store. That happened till about 1990. I was like 19 at the time. I moved out, and always had a place, and we'd get together at my place once a week to play, as we like to call it, ships. 1/2400 scale, Sea Krieg 4. Range estimating, measuring on the floor, laying about at the floor kind of stuff. Yeah, stuff that I wouldn't do anymore. And that went good for a couple of years. And living in a college town, everybody kind of moved out and we're left with nobody. And probably since about 92 to 96, it was pretty dry. About 96, I had for about 3 years people that would come over, like one person that lived in town, and they would come over to my house and they would come and paint, and we did some gaming. But then that pretty much dried out. I started going to conventions twice a year in 2001. I'd gone to conventions before, but it really didn't really take off for well. I've consistently gone to our conventions in Orlando since 2001. And in 2004, I discovered DBA, and the rest is history. But it still took from 2004 till about 2010, 2011 to get Mitch to play. Didn't move to town till about 2010, and to play consistently 2011. So it's really only the last 9 years that we've been really mixing it up, with a face-to-face gaming. So, which is a shame. I mean, we could have all the good times we could have freaking had, all of them. But it's all good. It all happened at a time when, we've got this YouTube thing going and we can share our experiences. You guys can follow along. Um, the pandemic's here, so you guys are looking forward to what kind of combats we might get into and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess it's all okay now, but it took a long time. There's always been gamers in this town, but they'll either be play Warhammer or um, that kind of stuff. I never played Warhammer. Never played Warhammer. Don't really care for fantasy. It doesn't interest me. It doesn't give me an incentive to read more about history or paint figures, or it's just not my thing. So, my age, I find it too hard to climb off the floor. It's not worth it. It's not getting up off the floor. It's not getting down to the floor. It's like when you're on the floor, it's uncomfortable. Um, I mean, I can do it, but I've done it, and it's not worth it, you know? I remember we played a game, went to this guy's house. He lives probably 30 miles away, and we played on his floor. There was four of us. We played this game of Sioux Creek 4. And really, naval combat's really my jam. That's what I grew up getting into and stuff. So World War II, World War One, mostly World War II. And we did this. And I always like to do what if stuff, but stuff that didn't happen but could have. And I'll give you an example. So what we did is, I mean, the information is really available now. It was, you had to go to like the library and find it stuff way back when. But we played this scenario that I created, that it was the Japanese, one of the Japanese invasion forces that happened to, when the Battle of Midway was going on, the Japanese also struck towards Alaska. And it was the composition of one of the strike forces that went to Alaska. And in real life, they didn't encounter anyone, but if they would have encountered a force that we kind of created. So, we had some battleships on both sides. We had some cruisers on both sides. We had destroyers on both sides. No carriers, because, they just kind of ruin the whole experience if you're interested in having big guys lob shells at each other. They like spot you and like, somebody wants to run away and you don't have a combat, so. But we played this game for 26 hours straight. And what I mean by 26 hours straight, we didn't go to sleep that night. We started on Saturday, like around 9 o'clock in the morning, and we were done. Well, we stopped playing on Sunday about 10:30, something like that, 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. We went through like 3 cases of Pepsi, and we played through like, I want to say like 60 something turns or whatever. They're 2 minute turns, but range estimating every turn. I mean, we were like brain dead when we were done with this, and all on the floor. And the battle was inconclusive. That doesn't mean we didn't have a good time. We had a hell of a time, but there was no winner because we actually hadn't had all our ships committed, because you knew we were going to play a long game. So you're like, okay, well, let's not throw everything in. Let's keep something back in case something's wounded. And I think I played Japanese. I think I played Japanese in that one. And we kept one of our torpedo cruisers. One of those light cruisers like the Kitakami or the Oi. They had two of them. They carried like 80 torpedoes, or maybe it's 40 torpedoes, something like that. They have a ton of long lance torpedoes. We didn't get it within visual range of anybody. We keep it off on the board, but still, away where they couldn't just lob a bunch of shells and take it out at long range. It was just kind of waiting to see who got wounded, and we never committed it to it. So the battle was inconclusive, and yeah, so 60 something turns. So that represented about, well, it's 2 minute turns, 140 minutes, something like that. So anyway, we had a great time, but I couldn't do that now. Like, I'm going to play a game for 26 hours and we're not going to know who won? No, no. I'll play 26 hours of DBA. That's 26 games or 28 games or whatever, and who won every one of those. Yeah, the days of that stuff is like over. I would never do that anymore. So, see. Last played 15s in Hong Kong, last year's DBMM. Only played DBA a few times. All depends on what your local group play. Yeah, you've got to play whatever your group plays. Absolutely. Have to. So, well, you don't have to. I mean, you could be the guy that starts everybody, the point car, so to speak. The point. What's the word I'm thinking of? The pace car, leading everybody. But I don't learn rules that way well. I've got to like see it being played, and then I can kind of process, what's going on. So I wouldn't have been a good work from home student. All right, last stage here. I bet there's no Hong Kong this year. Or actually, I haven't heard anything from over there, but who knows what we hear. You know, unless you go find it, you end up hearing mostly of what they want you to hear. You know, you'll hear nothing of the world, and I don't listen to the news anymore. I did a couple days ago because obviously, but I don't really pay attention to any of it. You got to be careful because we don't want to undo anything we've done here. That would be bad. Great club in Hong Kong, really welcome. Yeah, I'm friends with quite a few of those guys on Facebook, so but they haven't posted in a while, so hopefully they're okay. They haven't posted in a while. Well, they're not as active as they used to be. They weren't as active as they used to be in 2019. Let's put it that way. I think I would love DBMM. I just don't have the stomach to be the guy to learn it. I'd be like, okay, you're going to run the game and just tell me what I need to do. You know, I don't have the stomach to learn to play another game written in this same style that I'm going to end up playing wrong hundreds of times before I get right. I just don't have the stomach for it anymore. Would I like the detail? Absolutely. I would absolutely love all that detail and the differences between the new two knights and all that stuff. I just don't want to, it's unsatisfying to play things wrong. For me, um, that's all. I got nothing against it. I'd probably like it. I like that whole, see if it's going to rain. Perfect. I love all that stuff. I just don't want to play it wrong, so. I just don't have the stomach to play something hundreds of times wrong and think I got it and then unlearn what I think I knew. And no, I can't do that anymore. I don't have a second soul to give Barker. I've already gave him the one that I have. But we like it. I think everybody in our group would like it. We all kind of like the same thing. We like being challenged. Okay, I think that's about done. Well, obviously, we're going to have to do a little grass and shrubbery and things like that. Well, I think that's okay. Okay, coming off to that side. Alas, back to work. The curse of being on call. Happy Friday or happy Saturday for you. Yeah, being on call, I don't have that problem. Thankfully, I don't think about work when I'm not at it. That's the one thing that I will say about my job that I honestly don't think about it when I'm not there. I I'd be underpaid if I did. I don't want to think about I don't want to think about that place when I'm not there. I had one day this week I had a work dream. I have them frequently, and then you just wake up and you're confused. And of course, it's like a dream. None of the shit makes sense when you wake up, but it confuses you. Like, did this really happen, or is this going to happen? Or you wake up in a bad mood, because wasted a dream, dreaming about work. You just finished doing the clothing on 8 figures using contrast paints. I'm happy with how they've turned out. Next up are belts, quivers, bows, personal weapons, and hair. Okay. So it's quicker. How much quicker is it? Half the time? I don't think it's contrast paints. I think it's that you're watching this show. That's how you're getting things done. I actually went to go look for contrast paints a couple months ago. A hobby store here in town is just sad. They don't restock things, and maybe it's not their fault or whatever. But I wasn't going to change all my painting style, but like to paint a building or something like that. Just see what to do with it. But I think I'm too far along on what I'm doing to kind of go back to that. But I was willing to give it a shot, but they didn't have any colors. Not only that, the people just the work there just didn't know jack about anything. So and that's really what's happened in the last, I'd say, 10 years for sure. You go to a store and people don't know anything anymore. You know, people don't know anything about where they work. Everybody's just on their phone until it's time for them to get off work, and then they get back on their phone again. And I was always raised, you're at work, man. You need to be on the ball. You can get fired, not just see what you can get away with. But oh well. Guess I need to be slacking off too, maybe. Okay, let's find some really, really cheap black paint. We know we got that around here somewhere because we got to do the edging on that. We don't want to leave that towards the end. And our suspect here is going to be full cart licorice. Now, the good thing about this stuff is it's cheap. And one thing I read somewhere is cheap paint has less tint, color molecules here. I forget what it's called. We'll call it color molecules. It's not called that. I just can't think of what it is right now. And more of the filler. Has more filler than the color. And it makes it flatter. Well, that's what I want. I don't want these shiny edges. I should have stored this thing upside down. Come on, give me one of these turds that comes out here. And because of that, it's flatter. Right? Because I'm not going to seal the edge of this. And I used to do the edges of this stuff in brown, but I actually like the black better. So hey, do what you like. Some people even, I've seen people like color code the edge. Like the edge of this arm would be like green or something, and another one would be red. Right? Whatever works for you. I happen to like black. I used to do this. I used to leave in this dark color that the bottom shade is. But not anymore. And one thing is about painting edges, which is counterintuitive. I used to use a flat brush to paint the edges, and it's actually easier when you don't use a flat brush. I don't know, maybe there's some science behind it, but I'm not a science guy. I'm a map guy. That's why I'm using this cattywampus type of brush. And this will have to dry before we do any of the grasses, because you don't want the grass to stick to the edge of the stand. Then you'll have a furry side. It's not the look we're going for. I'm not a fan of deep units because the first kill costs an extra one. The first loss of one costs an extra unit. But the deep knights are probably the deep unit I mind the least. Because I feel like knights need some help. So pigment. There you go. That's thank you. A figment of pigment. Combination of listening to you and a faster method. Our town, about 25,000, has 2 shops that carries hobby paints, and other 2 shops that also carry craft. Really? That's a lot of shops for 25,000. There's a town I drive through on the way to Jacksonville that has 25,000, and they don't have shit. They have a Walmart, and that's it. So, wow. No, we got a chain store here called Hobby Lobby, and they carry some Vallejo, but that's it. They're usually in stock there, but they only carry 30 colors, 40 colors, something like that. They carry all the colors that are in the base that I use for my basing, which is good because that's what I'll end up using more than anything else. That's what I'll go through more than anything else. But they were out of craft paint for a while. Like in June, I needed to get some more of this black paint, and I just couldn't get any. Which is funny because this is the old thing. I bought 2 more bottles of this stuff when they finally restocked, and I'm holding on to that. I haven't even opened it yet. This is the old one. So I figure I can open up those whenever. Well, I'll never understand is this paint. Nothing's made in the U.S. anymore. Okay, except this paint. All this cheap paint that's almost like $1 a bottle or something like that, really cheap. All of it's made here in the U.S. I'm surprised. Made in Georgia, the land of cops. You ever go to Georgia? Don't speed. It's ridiculous the amount of cops that are up there on speeding patrol. Okay, now we'll need to let that dry a little bit. Let's rinse this up. I use Racine House paints for bases. Okay, I guess that would work. I'm not familiar with that brand, but of course, I mean, you don't think it would be one place or the other. Yeah, no point using expensive paint for the side of this. No point in doing that. Okay, let's go ahead and get our grass and things like that. Okay. All right. The grass is in. Why can't I see anything down here? You relying on your phone a lot for the light, or at least I do. And I can't do that right now because I'm filming with it. Get some tuft action here. Did such a good job of putting things away, I can't find it. Okay. Here is the grass, and there's one of the tufts, and where's the other two? They should all be together. I got like a little roll away tray, but here's the other one, and here's the third one. Perfect. I think I need to do a video of kind of show you what setup I have. It's nothing grandiose. I think it's kind of minimalist in a way. I don't need to have a lot of things distracting me all at once. I don't do well in that environment. And where's Mr. Elmer's glue? There's, like you guys across the pond like to call it, PVA. Okay. And the tweezers. All right. I'll have to say now it looks like I'm going to get these guys done tonight. Hey, I can talk like a badass when I have only one step left, you know? Let's get some tufts here. Let's pick us out some tufts. Okay. And what do I need to get an X-Acto knife? Guess I need to split any of them too. So this is a gamer's grass. This is from a weird place. Isn't this from Portugal? Not that Portugal's weird, but it's unusual to have hobby things from Portugal. At least here in the States, it's unusual to have things there. Yep. Gamer's grass made in Portugal. So I had this at Historicon. I picked it up. I didn't know about this brand. I don't know why they even call this adhesive. I don't rely on that adhesive to. We're going to go with, let's do 5. I can always put them back if I don't use them. I don't rely on adhesion properties of this to work. All right. And these other two are just army painter stuff. This one is swamp tuft, and the other one is lowland shrubs. So let's grab 1, 2, let's do a third one of that. Okay. And then lowland shrubs. Let's grab 2 of these. These are kind of big. We're going to cut them down to size. Work with these, or work with them a little bit. Okay. All right. Let's. Well, I'm getting all out of in the wrong shape. I got to put the grass down first. This stuff. All right. Let's cut these in half. Off to the side. We'll take one of these big ones and cut it in half too, just so we have some variety. Leave these other 2 big. Move all these little guys here. Some happy little grass growing right over here. Okay. Leave that alone. Now, let's see what we're dealing with here. This is the opportunity, I like to say, how to fix things you boogered up. So, anything where I'm not happy with how this thing looks, I use this opportunity to cover it up using this grass. I can't believe you told us that. Everybody does it. They just don't admit to it. And this stuff doesn't turn out as good as you'd like it to, because let's be honest with you, it's hard to reach some of these places. You know, even with the multiple steps that I did trying to reach some of these places, it's still difficult to reach those places. Okay, so we're gonna get a brush. One, it's not too bad. Okay, let's move this guy. We're gonna do one at a time. So let me take a look at this and see what I do not like. What could be better? Well, this could be better right here. And this is just a part where this filler went in, and then as it dried, it receded some and left the outline of the base that these figures are on. Let's try to move this a little bit more. There we go. For you guys' benefit. It's just the same whether or not it's on the camera or not, but that's not the point. All right, we're going to have some grass here. And we're going to have some over here. Oh. And let's put some back here. All right, now we're not going to do both stands. We're just going to do this one and we'll go back and do the other one. We're going to need this. I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit. Let's see if I can pull this off, because right now I don't have my glasses on so I can see, you know? All right, let's see if we can do this. That should be about right. All right. Not that you guys need to see this. Oh, and we need one of our little tools, which I like to use one of these. There's one of these trays. There's a Dave's baggage train, which I mentioned before, which makes the little basing sticks that we use. They also have these inserts, these tray inserts, kind of like a duffel bag is their kind of their carry system. It's not very complicated, not very proprietary, but this serves really well to put the thing here, and then when you dump the stuff on it, you have a way of getting some of it back, or have a chance of getting some of it back. So we're just going to take this and put it down here. Now let's see if we can use a dowel, because a dowel isn't as sharp. I would rather not scrape up anything I have. You know, I don't see where my little dowel is. Handy. As you can tell, typical fashion, this is totally unscripted. The challenges you see in this video are being experienced by the person in real time. I detest reality shows because they sell themselves as unscripted, and they are anything but. I mentioned that in the other video. I started watching my brother is a big fan of Top Gear and the new show. What's it called? Grand Tour. I went over to his place a couple of weeks ago, and he had that on, and I could not stand how scripted the new show is. It's annoying. I mean, I like those guys. This is a fun show. I like all the car stuff, and it's educational in a way, but it's just so darn scripted. And they pretend like it's not on the show. It's like, okay, who are you fooling? Okay. So I don't like reality show. Even the first one, that was the first one was Survivor, right? Should be hidden cameras. You guys are on an island with bamboo, and you got to make weapons out of bamboo, and only one person lives. We'll see you in a month. No voting, and I like the Lord of the Flies type of Survivor better. Hey, you guys signed up for it. We could be killed. Make a sharper stick. Hey, people would watch it. Okay. I think we can live with this. Okay. Now we're going to have little tufts and stuff on there as well. So we're just going to sit this off to the side. Okay. All right. Next. Put this somewhere else while I do this. Okay. All right. Where's the boogers on this one? Let's get us some more white glue. You don't want the stand underneath the horse to look like it's a stand and really, stand out. Dad joke, right? You need to leave enough space of where it doesn't have grass so you can appreciate where it does have. You can't just have everything covered. Well, you can do whatever you want. I mean, when you're making the army, you can do it whichever method you feel. I'm just saying, I don't want it to look like a putting green. There needs to be some dirt and stuff in there. So it'll look right. So yeah, so before that, I'd watch stuff on YouTube or TV, Netflix, whatever while I was painting. But what happened is I didn't look in. I'm a terrible multitasker. Always have been. I admit it. Lots of people are too. They just don't admit it. I'm a terrible multitasker, and I would look up all the time, and I wouldn't get anything done. I'd spend time watching the TV and not accomplishing this. And so I tried doing the Audible for a while. I do the Audible, but only in the car because again, it doesn't serve to keep me on track as much as I would like it to. So yeah, doing the videos is definitely the best way to keep me on task, not really looking at the camera. So forth. So and of course we're going to reclaim all as much of this as we can. Because it's just stupid being wasteful. Did I wear another synthetic blend shirt when I'm using this synthetic grass and it won't come off? Figures. Oh well. Okay. All right, this is what we're going to leave this like this as is. So let's go ahead and reclaim this stuff. I said it wasn't musical. It's funny. Everybody, we all have our own specialization. Some people can draw, they can't add. Some people can add, they get lost. Okay. Some people can sing, can't dance. I know a guy I work with. I think it's a guy I work with who claims, I could be wrong, maybe it's not a guy that I work with, but I once met a guy, not that I was trying to meet guys, you know what I mean. I once met a guy that said he couldn't talk in front of people, but he could sing in front of them. That's mind blowing. I can't drink enough to sing. I don't have a problem talking in front of people as long as you know what you're talking about. We're going to talk about DBA. Let's get it on. We're going to talk about something I don't know anything about. Nope. Nope. That would be a bad idea. Or people, when they talk in front of people, they're like, well, my name's Tony, and we're going to talk about my painting that I do, and I paint with miniatures, and I'm really, man, speak up, be loud, be proud of what you're talking about. Doesn't make it any less embarrassing just because you're being a little quieter. All right. Time for some roughage. All right. Let's pick one. I don't remember which one we did first. I don't want to do this one first. I want to do the other one first. All right. Here's all these little ones that there's a bunch of them of. Let's lay these guys out. I believe there's 4. And I try not to go like, okay, well, we're going to put 2 on this one and 2 on the other one. I try to do 3 and 1 or something like that. Oh, there's 5 of them. Oh. We can't do the same amount. All right. We're going to have a big space here to fill up. Let's see what this looks like there. I think we're going to put that one there. Fill up that spot. So we're going to come in here, put a little dab. And what I really like to do is I like to do this basing is workable and paintable probably in about 6 hours to 8 hours. So I like doing this method I'm doing now, maybe about like 10 hours afterwards. So this basing material still gives a little bit. And what I like to do is I like to press this stuff into the basing material. It's not necessary, but it helps kind of fit it into the terrain it's trying to represent. So we're going to put that one there, all right? And we're not going to put another one of these big grasses there. We've got, is one of these bigger than the other? These tall ones here. Let's put one of these tall ones, say like down there. We're gonna need more glue for that then. Okay. And we got plenty of these little guys. Let's put one underneath there. Just arbitrary. Why'd you put it there? 'Cause. So this is actually a steppe army. The Hungarians, they're steppe terrain type. That's kind of interesting. So they can't have a road because the steppe is all road. But they're an aggression 2, so they're not going to get terrain all that often. Even though it's only a 2, I would consider terrain 2 kind of an aggressive terrain type. And I can only tell you because I've got another army that I've got aggression 2, and they almost never get terrain. So I'm going to put one more of these guys, since these are the ones we got like 5 of. We'll put one there. Let's put the other one back here. Yeah, so even though it's a 2, you think, it's a 2, they could win terrain. A 2 doesn't win terrain half the time, I'd say. They're usually the attacker. Sure seems that way. Okay. I lied, I want another one up here. You lie. Okay. Can always add more if I want to. Can always take them off if I want to as well. I don't think I've ever done either one of those two things. It's not that scientific. Okay. Let's put one of these big brushy plants up here in between these two rocks. Okay. And this big brushy one. Let's put it over here on this side. You just reminded me, in your battle videos, I'm interested in the logic of why you place terrain where you do and why you deploy as you do. It's a tricky thing when learning to play. Well, I want to say I don't put any thought into it, but that's not true. Um, well, if I win terrain and I have an army that, say I'm facing, let's use my Armenians. My Armenians, like I used from last week, which is, I've got to do the math on them. They're definitely the army I've played the most. They're probably over 80 something games on them. And I've got a pretty damn good winning record with them. They're probably close to like 50 and 30, something like that. 50 wins, 30 losses, something like that. They've got two skirmishers and four auxilia, so they need terrain against most opponents. But they also have four light horse, so you don't want to create an entire forest of terrain. You need to have some open ground. So you want some anchor points. You want to use the terrain as anchor points. I think the terrain works better when you use a more reasonable size terrain instead of trying to max it all out. So a size that works pretty good is maybe, and we're talking about footprint here, maybe a little bit bigger than this. Just because you can go 3 times bigger than this doesn't mean that's the size you need to do, but just something that has a foot point for an anchor point. Because if you flood if you have an army that has a lot of bad going capability and you flood the board with that, you're just going to incentivize your opponent to just turtle up. And that's not what you want. What you want to do is you want to give them an appearance that they could get an advantage on you, but then there's enough different anchor points that you could fall back or encircle or what have you to use that. Okay, so just because you can put a lot of terrain down doesn't mean you need to flood the entire board with it, because you're going to discourage the other side to be aggressive with you. And you'll have the terrain where you can be aggressive, but then the other guy can't. So most good battles turn into what I like to call the yin yang. One guy's pushing on one side, the other one's pushing on the other one. You're trying to accomplish your goal before the other guy gets around to doing theirs. So there's another thing I've noticed is if you're playing a battle where one side has both sides have a similar type of army. Maybe they want to fight in open ground, and you're like, well, I just won't put much terrain down. I've lost games because I've just left. Okay, I feel like I've lost the game because I left the board kind of barren, and they got luckier and it just got away from me. If you can handle terrain better than the other guy, put it down and be able to move through it or anchor one side and really bog the guy up. I know that I've lost many games. Just like when I was starting out, I would attack everywhere, that I had an advantage. And sometimes when you only need one kill, you need to kind of hedge your bets and make sure you don't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And that's one thing I've kind of learned is I don't like to just attack everywhere just because I can, because I've lost games that way. And likewise, it's, if you're going to, if put some terrain down, if you know you can use the terrain better than your opponent, if you're more experienced in using it, put it down. It doesn't have to be a ton of it, but it just has to be enough that maybe messes up his bow shooting or his command and control or something like that. Now, as far as setup, as an attacker, it's easier to set up because you know where the other guy is. But if you're the defender, I tend to set up balanced on both sides, barring some really strange terrain or really dominant terrain in one direction. Like, if you got a forest on one side and you have a bunch of light horse, you're not going to put them in front where they have to go into the forest. But, if you're talking about mild terrain with just anchor points type things, not something that's specifically very clustered, I tend to set up. I tend to set up balanced. In other words, if I have an army that had, split everything equally on both flanks. So, if I've got something like put the heavy foot in the middle and then put the bows on the ends, or then maybe the cavalry on the ends, or keep the cavalry in reserve where they can punch through holes, but equally on both sides, not to give away what I want to do, because as the attacker, then they can, if you put like all your cavalry on one side, well, then they could just put all the bow over there, and then you got to deal with that. So I tend to set up balanced. I also tend to like what I like to call not really have a plan. And that sounds kind of stupid, but it's not really what I mean to say. It's that I don't have a fixed plan. I try to set up strong, even, and then improve my position relative to my opponents every turn. Now, I do all this not even thinking about it. I mean, it's just kind of human nature. Now, I just so much of it is just like you don't even have to think about it anymore. But that's pretty much when I sat down and dissected really how I play. I definitely set up balanced, and where I can react to anything, not put all your eggs in one basket, and just try to improve my position as much as I can, and try to stay as condensed in groups so that you never know when you're going to roll a one for pips or a two. You don't want to be spread all over the place. So that's how I tend to play. I don't like having this big plan all in advance because you don't know what you're going to roll for pips. Forget what the other guy's playing. And I don't worry about what the other guy's trying to do so much. I try to like, okay, let me set up strong. Oh, that guy's like this. All right, well, let me use my advantage and improve it and make his situation a little bit less untenable every turn when I can. And especially with bow fire. You can put your bows somewhere where they can really harass the guy and disrupt his group and just be a pain in the ass. You want to be good at bows, play against them a lot. And then you realize, okay, now what is it that you hated the bows doing to you? And then when you have them, you do exactly that. My first two armies, my first two armies had no shooters at all, no shooting elements. And it was, by the time I got an army with shooting elements, I knew how to use them because they frustrated the living shit out of me, so. So anyhow, but that's how I play. I tend to play. I don't tend to play defensive. I tend to be aggressive, but I tend to improve my situation every turn, or at least that's my intent. Sometimes it doesn't work that way because, like I said, you can't control the pip dice. The pip dice are more important than the combat dice. The combat dice, you roll badly, the guy unit dies, you move on. The pip dice, you need 3 pips and you roll a one. Now you're gonna analysis paralysis, and you don't know what to do. And all you needed was a decent pip dice, and you rolled a one. Things that happen. So don't have some made up battle plan that counts on you having at least 2 pips every turn, and then you end up getting a one. You don't know how to deal with it. So I also don't tend to worry about what my opponent's plan is. I don't care what his plan is. I just kind of, I and you pick and see like, okay, you got to kill four elements. Which four is it going to be? Where are you going to get your kills? Because you can't win everywhere. So you got to find where your winners are, and that's what you need to go towards. I don't know if that was helpful at all, but it's stuff I don't really think about. But when I'm trying to verbalize it, I'm like, okay, well, what exactly am I trying to accomplish? But yeah, I would say I'm an aggressive player. Luke is suicidal, but I like to be an aggressive player. I like to. I don't mind losing a battle. I like controlling the pace of the battle. It feels good to do that. Even if you lose, the fact that your opponent was reacting to what you were doing all of the time, and you stayed in control, command and control, and you were able to exert zones of control or threat zones on the enemy and maneuver around is a good feeling, even if you don't win. That's controlling the pace of the battle is very important, in my opinion. So I don't know if that helps, but that's kind of the dissection of the mentality of it. But I get a lot of people who ask me, it's like, how do you win with this army? Like people want to learn how to win with an army by watching a video, and you can't. You got to learn how to play the game and find your own way of winning. So when people are starting out and they say, "Well, what army would you recommend?" I said, "Well, let me give you some armies I wouldn't recommend." And I always recommend, something solid like I'd recommend Greeks more, but the problem with the Greeks is they tend to be almost all spear, so you don't get a flavor of the different troop types. But something with some solid foot, at least, six solid foot or something like that, where you can wrap your hand, guys you can count on. Guys, when you roll a one and you don't have either side that's overlapped, so you're just flat out going toe to toe with someone, and you roll a one, you don't, they don't lose the game for you. Hold on one second. I will be right back. Okay. Small distraction there. Okay. So, did that help? Well, we've got some comments. We'll see. Thanks. Okay, well, there's the comments. Yeah, and we all play differently. And we mentioned this from time to time. We all have our kind of aggressive, our different styles of play. I don't know how Mitch plays, honestly. I don't really pay attention because his isn't very particularly one way or another. But we need one more. Let's go ahead and put this one down too on this side. Luke's is definitely dominant in the. He's gotten better. He's gotten better, and I think having a couple of armies that he enjoys that are very defensive, not necessarily defensive, but ones you have to be careful with, like his Nabateans, with all the bows and stuff like that, forces you kind of to play the other way. But he's one of those guys that likes knights, and Mitch is one of those guys too. He likes quick kills. He says he likes a army with quick kills. I couldn't care less. With the quick kills come the impetuousness, which drives me crazy. So if I have knights, I tend to use them in the second rank to plug holes and penetrate, not be the front guys. So I like to counter attack with knights, not attack for the first time with them. In a perfect world, sometimes you're just forced to do things with different matchups because you just don't have the right troops. But in a perfect world, I don't like to put the knights on the front line and then they win and then they're out there front and center where they could get gobbled up by different things. So I don't know why this is behaving that way. I'm gonna have to let this dry overnight. This stuff dries clear even if you can see this white, but yeah, everybody's got their own style of play. And of course, Scott likes to put cities, and I don't like cities. I don't like to be defensive. I don't like to be committed to having to defend something. I want to be fluid. So, Middle Roman all the way. You mean Middle Imperial Roman? Middle Imperial Roman. Those guys don't have enough shooters for me. In a perfect world, my perfect army has four bowmen. Has four bowmen, and probably four heavy foot. And by heavy foot, I mean blades or spears. And then the rest can be any mix. If I'm building my perfect army that I feel comfortable with to bring in an open tournament against who knows who, I want to be able to initially put down two bowmen on each side, and four heavy foot in the middle, or you can alternate bow, heavy foot, bow, heavy foot, bow, heavy foot, bow, heavy foot across the front, and have mounted troops. My preference actually would be cavalry because they don't advance and get themselves into trouble on the flanks or behind that line where they can plug and do other holes, stuff like that. So that would be, I wouldn't say a perfect army, but an army that I'm comfortable with. So, okay. But I don't want to keep building the same army. I'm not sure any of my armies necessarily fall into that category of that. What would that be like? Maybe my Tang are close to that. I haven't played them in a long time. So, okay, so let's take a look at this and see what we've got. And the lighting really plays on this stuff. This is the two deep nights here. And I'm gonna have to tinker with these with a little bit because I can see the edge of this grass is just popping up here. Wait for that to dry a little bit. And I don't know if I'm gonna put little thin little banners on. Nothing major, but just, you know, something that would be complementary to that. Let's go ahead and put these guys with the rest of them. See what we got so far. Now here is the Hungarians so far. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And by the time I'm done with this, it's probably going to be like 16 units or something like that in this army. But this is them so far. I have a feeling I'm really going to like this army. And there's a lot of different ways you can play these guys. You could dumb them down. You can make them light. You can make them heavier. You could throw allies in. You know, you could throw one of their allies in and get rid of these. You don't want to deal with these light horse. Get rid of the 3 light horse. And they got a really heavy hitting army. I don't mind light horse. I like 2. I have no problem with 2. My Irish have had 3 and have been really successful with them. But I use them to counterpunch and stuff like that. So they're not out there getting their heads chopped off or their heads shot off with bows. Because bows would just destroy light horse all day long. So anyhow, this is the Hungarian so far. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the command stand for the Hungarian, which is just a regular 3-night stand on that. And then it'll get interesting. Then it'll get interesting what direction we're going to go in. Probably do the other 3 nights as well. But yeah. Anyways, I'm pretty happy with them so far. Of course, they look better in the natural light. So I don't know what it is about the light here, especially with the video. It just looks very artificial. It has too much of a shine. It's got too much like kickback, you know, so. Okay. All right. What time is it? 10 to 10? Oh, we still got some painting in us. I've got some coffee going through my veins, so we can handle a little bit more painting. What else we got here? Anything else? All right, let's see what we got. Let's put all of our terrain things away because we've made a mess. So. Yeah, everybody has their own playing style, and that's good. You know, I don't think any of us are trying to convert each other to a certain kind. I mean, you know, I think it's more value to make sure you have people that play differently than everybody plays the same. It's like, well, what's the point, you know? I mean, I have my reasons why I do what I do, and the fact that not everybody obeys that is a good thing. It makes my playing style unique to, say, someone else's. So I don't want other people to play like me. All right, these are all Didn't we have to glue a flag? Oh yeah, we glued the flag on this dude. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, this thing we've used for dry brushing everything, and this is just distracting shit. So that's got to go. We can't be looking at that all the time. We got to get us. That'll be my dry brushing one. We got to get us one that has nothing on it. Of course, this is my cover for my cutting mat because as you can see, I'm anal retentive and I don't want any. I don't want any cutting or paint on here. There's a little bit of paint on here, but that'll come off. But I didn't even pay for this thing. This is one I commandeered from work. So I'm like, they asked, did I want one? I said, yeah, but I'm not going to keep it here. I'm going to take it home. Well, you can have it anyways. I'm like, good. I got all kinds of use for it. So I don't want to have something that's messed up looking and having to look at it all day long while I'm painting. It's demoralizing. It's like looking at a burned down house all day long. I don't want to see that. Okay. All right, which one of these clowns are we doing? Well, we're not going to do the leader. We're just flat out not doing him first. Just out of principle. Let's just do this knight here. He seems all right. Seems like an all right fellow. Okay. Time to get out the painting palette. Well, I suspect I probably have to change the paper on it, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's that time. I need to wash it too. It smells like smells sour. All right, we'll be right back. And we'll get to put a new paper down. You guys get to see what that's like. Ooh, exciting. Not really. Yeah, and even some of the paint ends up working its way through this, but this is still moist after probably a couple weeks of being on there. So I'm gonna give this a quick wash. I'll be right back. All right, so we washed this thing out. We used some antibacterial soap. So it's starting to smell a little sour. I don't want to say moldy, but it happens. It's enclosed. I don't think it's a health hazard or anything. Just not pleasant smelling. So, and this is pretty wet. You can see the moisture there. Okay. Let's get our papers. Let me see your papers. I'm going to take this opportunity to count how many I got left. It came with 50 of these. Okay. And I am almost certain that I'm going to run out before a convention shows up to buy them in person. So I need to see how many I got left to make sure I don't run out. 1, 2. Probably got about 25 of them. I'm good for another couple of years, so that may not be enough till there's another convention, but so be it. We're just going to throw this down here. And it just, and as you can see the edge, somebody asked me, what do you do when the edge rolls up like this? Well, you just press it down. You tell it, you better sit your ass down. And then it does. Just run it on the edge. Boom, done. Okay. That's it. That's all you do. And it'll unroll again. It'll start drying out. If I was going to paint, say, for like 4.5 hours, something like that, you'll start seeing the end of it come up a little bit. Not a big deal. Just push it back down. Not very inconvenient if it's only happening once every 4.5 hours while you're using it. Okay, let's get our usual suspects out here right in the middle. Mr. Black and White. But as you can see, it's pretty moist. Great, I got all this little grit from the dried paint around here. I'm not sure if that's going to be an issue, but we're going to get rid of it now. I don't want to see it. It's dried acrylic paint. It's not going to reactivate. All right. Now, brushes. Look at our tome of brushes here. Man, that thing's long. One of the ones that came in one of these multi-packs. Grab that one, this one, those two, that one. Let's have those handy. Okay. Water is over on the side. See if I still have any thinner here. I do. Somebody gave me a suggestion to use, instead of this thing that was evaporating, is just use a contact lens solution, a contact lens case, and put the airbrush thinner there, and it worked well instead of just leaving it loose here. So, yep, we steal ideas from everybody else. Add a couple more drops to that. I use airbrush thinner even though I don't use an airbrush. An airbrush is great when it works. When it doesn't, you wish it was never invented. If you're using an airbrush and it's taking you longer to paint things than by standard brush, why? I mean, why even using it? I mean, other people may have their reasons, but that's my reasoning. Airbrush should be speeding up my process, not taking longer. All right. Which guy were we doing? This clown right here? Okay. We gotta decide what color horse he's gonna have. Hopefully 2 horses here. Let's see what we've got. No, we're just gonna give him a standard brown color horse. That's how I roll. Let's see if we can find that leather brown one. No. That's an army painter color. I'm not a big fan of army painter. I like their stuff. I just don't like their... I like their tufts and everything. I just don't like their paint. I use it. I just... I don't feel like dealing with it. Just good old Vallejo leather brown. All right. Now this airbrush thinner I'm using in place of water. And I'll tell you what, it's something that's really interesting. I'm not a scientist, but if this was water, as soon as I took, and all I'm doing it is wetting it to get a better flow of it. If this was regular water, as soon as I dropped it in here, the water would go everywhere and it would start staining the solution. It doesn't do that with this. It's almost like it sticks together. I'm not sure why that is, but maybe that's why it works better than water for the purposes that I'm using it for. Because I read somewhere that unlike thinning it with water, it doesn't lose the pigments. Now, I'm sure that if you thinned it a lot, it would still lose it, but maybe it doesn't lose it as fast. Anyways, I'm a big fan of this airbrush thinner, and I kind of found out about it as a fluke. It was in using one of the suggestions that somebody had of what I needed to do to take to thin down the Citadel paints to transfer them over to an eyedropper bottle, which ended up being a big fail because I really wanted to transfer them over to kind of minimize the mess that was creating, and it was creating a mess from the standpoint of the bottles getting all like drippy and goopy and stuff, and so I transferred it over by thinning the paints and then using kind of like a try and pouring it in the other one, and it was just really a big fail. But the item that they suggested that I thin the paint with so that it pours out of the container easier. And of course, the container we're talking about is one of these Citadel containers, like so, is this airbrush thinner. So it got me to purchase that overly expensive airbrush thinner, which was like $20 or whatever. Well, it's a good amount. It's 200 milliliters, right? Is that what it is? I think it's 200. Yeah, 200 milliliters. And it's expensive, but I've used it quite a bit, and I've only used, I don't know, a 20th of it maybe or something like that. So it's a good value. But anyways, it got me using it as a thinning device, not to clean the brushes, but just to kind of keep the paint alive, so to speak, as I'm applying it on there. And I've been really happy with it. Would have never known about it had I not decided to try to transfer over these paints. So, who would have thunk it, right? And that's after painting for 35 freaking years, or I should say, really, since about 1998, and not really changing my style. This is the first thing I've really changed to it, doing differently, is using this the airbrush thinner as rewetting drops, sort of. So I'm glad I found that out. Just back from dropping Lorraine to a girlfriend's place for wine and a platter. I'm happy to see you're still going. I am. It's a miracle. The power of coffee. Caffeine is my drug of choice. Uh, Caffeine, it makes things happen. I got home, I was really tired. I'm more awake now than when I got home. Good stuff. We got things to do. We can't be not getting things done. Dropping off your wife at a girlfriend's place. You really need to teach her how to drive. I'm sure that's not the case. Okay. Go around to this side. Yeah, those two deep stands of knights took a damn long time to get done. It was 12 figures, so it took a while to get through them all. And now I don't have to paint them again. Don't want her to drive after imbibing. Yeah, well, that's just it. She can just stay there longer and have to sober up. More painting time. Now, I bet she's somebody where you can be doing your thing in one room and she's doing her thing. I get it. I really wish I could watch television and do this, but I can't. I won't get anything done. My paint, what'll end up happening is the paint, I'll end up getting sidetracked to look at what's going on, and then I let the paint dry on the brush and it ruins the brush. I'm constantly having to fight the brush then, so we'll just give that up and not even try to attempt that. Okay. Let's go a little bit lightening up on that. That's the thing about these armored horses. By the time you're done with it, there's not really that much to paint on them. Okay. Speaking of armored, let's armor up the rest of this guy. What is that paint that got transferred over? Here it is, sitting on the side. Watching, listening to you, or the cricket works for me. You mean English baseball? The cricket. I think it's like English baseball. I don't know. I'm the wrong person to ask about sports. There's certain topics that most people know quite a bit about, but I know hardly anything about, and that's one of them. I don't know jack about sports. Don't watch them. Okay. Let us get a brush that's a little bit more controllable, like this one. All right, and we're going to paint the little pieces of the individual pieces of the armors. I want to go ahead and leave the black in between all the pieces. Even though we're going to give this a wash of the Nuln oil, make it stand out even more than that, I still would like to go ahead and leave black where there's a definite gap between the pieces of the armor. And the nice thing about doing this in the sections like this, I don't have to, if I was like going to dry brush it, which is what I would imagine most people would do to this, I'd have to do that fairly early in the process so that I didn't dry brush over something that I already painted. But here, it's pretty controlled. That's not gonna happen unless, something catastrophic like spilled paint over it or something like that. If I have a stroke while I'm doing that, all bets are off. So, just as a warning, this coming Monday and the next coming Monday as well, the next 2 Mondays, there will be no games being filmed. We're going to attempt to play on Tuesday both days. So, and it's probably going to be Napoleonics. So, stay posted. If that's the case, we're going to be doing it live. So, some live DBN gaming. Well, I shouldn't have told you guys that, because as soon as I tell you that, it's not going to change into something else. But that's what the plan is. Don't be expecting any gaming on Monday. That part won't change at all. Mitch is out of town, so he will not be available. Now, unlike some of these other guys, this guy's wearing some kind of a sallet, but the bottom of his chin is actually a metal piece as well, almost like a clamshell, so to speak. It's not his chin that's showing there, so we're going to paint the bottom of that metal. Much of the sallets I've been painted have been having a chin showing. This one is not that case, not the same as that. Once we're done with this metal, we're gonna have to wind down. We don't want to be up till midnight, because I do have to wake up first thing in the morning. So there's no point in killing yourself and pay for it all weekend. Been up since 5 a.m. as it is. So. And we're going to have to let this dry a little bit before we put that Nuln Oil. So this is probably a wrap right here. Okay. Well, there you have it. We got this armored guy painted. And we'll let that dry and give it a Nuln Oil wash in the morning. Because we got about an hour we can do in the morning before we got to do our things that we do. Okay, folks. Well, there you have it. Finished up the Deep Nights and started working on this other group of 3. So, all right. Well, don't forget to check it out. I'm sure we'll be on tomorrow morning and definitely Sunday morning. I'll do some more painting and more Hungarian painting, specifically. So, okay, folks. Well, we'll catch you guys next time. And you've now finished the Saloy and 3 longbow. Next up, basing and goop. See ya. There you go. Get goop names catchy, isn't it? All right, Greg. We'll catch you tomorrow maybe, and rest of you guys, hopefully you're off to a start of a good weekend. Catch you guys next time, and happy painting. Bye-bye.